Good morning. We start with Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga. From the heart of the Savior of 100 deities of Tushita, on a peak of cloud resembling a clump of extremely white fresh curd, King of Dharma, omniscient Losandrapa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me, on a lion throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit for my mind of faith, please abide for 100 yawns to spread the teachings. Your holy mind has the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanations is an ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renowned. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember, I prostrate. Pleasing drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incense, light, scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated, I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that I have collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age, and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful by abandoning the 8 worldly concerns. Savior, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect, pure, holy Gurus, from the billowing clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of Dharmakaya, please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued, exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Losandrapa's teachings to shine forever. Sajiputi Chujimeto Tramrirablingshi Nidegembadi Sange Shindu Mite Uwa Idrokunamdak Shinla Chupasho. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his 2 sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one Losandrapa, who had a morality of eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of 2 stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and they imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. We recite 5 Lan Miktsema 3 times. Migme tsewe tenchen chen rezik, drime gimpe wampo jampel yang, dupo malu jonze sawedang, kanchen gepe tsungen tsongkapa, lo sandra pe shabla soade. Migme tsewe tenchen chen rezik, drime gimpe wampo jampel yang, dupo malu jonze sawedang, kanchen gepe tsungen tsongkapa, lo sandra pe shabla soade. Migme tsewe tenchen chen rezik, drime gimpe wampo jampel yang, dupo malu jonze sawedang, kanchen gepe tsungen tsongkapa, lo sandra pe shabla soade. And a prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings. Through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in a glory for fortunate disciples.
Sanji Chodang Tsokjun Chonum La Chanju Bardu Dang Gyabsun Chi Dagi Chushi Yebanda Dag Roland Benji Sanji Rubar Sho Sanji Chodang Tsokjun Chonum La Chanju Bardu Dang Gyabsun Chi Dagi Chushi Yebanda Dagi Roland Benji Sanji Rubar Sho Sanji Chodang Tsokjun Chonum La Chanju Bardu Dang Gyabsun Dagi Chushi Jeban Dagi Roland Bench Sanjin Rubara Show Kangi Tuzini Zone Tawa Tamchi Pambicher Tambichun Denze Kodam de la Chancelo Namu Layake Nalodan Jiggy Tribon Dadami Kenamdro Kunji Danum Chizum Tamji Gedu Dagi Chudin Lo. Good morning, everyone. Namaste. Shabadele.
Shabadele Gishla.
Teli Manzo Proboyashi Kachik Jagarwa Kachik Peshas Mixige and same thing somebody use.
So our good friends, our best friends, a group of Indian people are there. And from the depths of my heart, I welcome you.
That in Proboyashi Jagawsaladi Kiranso Chichinanga Ganzola Karsam Gona, some cigarettes. And Jadanga Sama Chigbayins. Kiran Sama Ngenguni Chigbayins. Kansanange the number Sanji church genre. Tanga lot chungi chok something goes on it. 최코랑 잔 대와 있으라 다들 롱업 중하단 part 최코랑 잔대 넘버 산지 위치 대태고 친비 위치세 심전탕 제 라님리 심전탕 제 대원대버 찍바리 동암대버 찍바리 아니 지 탈도나 아니 심지 순라지기 바이나야 난수 깨월을 통만해봐 깨월을 참해봐 인자 탐지 랑기 마치용 바다 랑기 파마 제만용와 찍매봐 참을로 아니 수수 파마 제용와 찍바리 딘디 삼네로 다 딘디 삼니 아니 메시키와 인자 녜군 때나 아 케바 칸 요마레스 로 normal 된 상담나 아니 무스이나 갈이야 케바 칸 메ጆ트치 참 찍바도치 아 통구요레스
So, considering our Indian friends as being our best friends, you can probably question what is the reason for Geshe saying this, yeah? So you can see in general that we can consider all people as being the same in terms of wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. But in particular here, Geshe from a very young age, from 12 or 13 years old, has studied about Buddhism for until now, which he's about 50 years old. So during this time, the study of Buddhism is the same as the Indian style of study of Buddhism. Yeah. So, and understanding what the Buddha taught is the fact that all beings are the same in terms of not wanting suffering and wanting happiness. So, but ultimately, we can understand that since beginningless time, we have been taking lives, life after life. All sentient beings have at one stage or another been our parents, and in particular, being our mother. So we can see that over this course of many lifetimes, there is really no difference, yeah, in terms of wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. So if we think in a relaxed and clear way, we can understand that all sentient beings had at some stage been our parents, or in particular, has been our nurturing mothers.
이번에야 등아 남바 라 남비 취체등에 디난다 남비게 다 잡아치기로왔어 안도 사운다운 간주 카드나 통마 델레 라마를 잡수쇼 산지를 잡수쇼 라 소소 차세사디 라마 산지 야 차세인 슬라운디 아니 다 라마 수리 슬라운디 랑간주 남바 산지 위래야 라마 수리 슬라운디 간주 라마 타르투바디 아니 탐킬을 도지 침못됨이 땜바까딘지 아니 콩 당간주기다 아니 갈서다 라만 타르투바디 다 라마티 고나메바디 아니 땜바 산지 좀 된디디 콩 간주래야 람된 낭행기 로 람된 답비기 아니 만너와 람된 양다바 낭행기 라마디 소디 산지 좀 된디레스 콩 야가파비율이야 총여러스 야가르기 미지러스 노르드나 야가르기 미지 아니 콩기 마 송비기 랍샤 상무도소 마 경경체네 단단한 수 롭종 지야 여바티 아니 나렌다기 기비 엉보 콘소 라 벤주주등한들에 콘다샹이 콘수 제드레스 콘수다 드럽 당분이 입어 숨바틴지 까블마 페비체니 콘수기 산지 좀 된지 랍샤 상무강 숨바티마 이토라 빠시 라 아니 야가르기 이게 토라마 빠시 안 단단한 소리야 딱 뭐니 지 수수 메세 강자 장바이나야 수수 응원이 뒤져요나 be jangju big lomsen la ya zongta me ba chi zoya me ba jang ya ba kunzu ka den ro asra tin za ta kunzu di di gyaga phabi la ya chong ba insa gyagar gi mi ji ba insa ani ngana sem na la kadde na ro gyaga ji thong di ngi lamsan ani temba ka den cheni chebi ge ani nalen di kebi ang bo to so yonden di kadde ina chi chengin ro chi ro 아니 학도는 더발이야로 사전 더발려는 믹스기 야가지 통이 이 람상 90치기였어 샘띵이 90치기였어 그래서나 콘수기 비기 아니 수비기 착당 로 수비기 착 돌당 아니 야가르기 케비 엉부 속이 착 돌니든 제와 요러와 나 군주드 삼기였어 나 디솔기였어 이제 딘지기 차는 게 람상 아니 야가기 메솔이야 믹스게 same thing 아니 쿠지유스 로팅이 펠레로다 지금 셴바카이면스
So in general, the Buddha's teachings, they are coming from the great country of India. Now, Geshe himself, being a Buddhist monk and teaching about Buddhism, he really feels that in the beginning that we go for a refuge to the Lama, but then we also go for refuge to the Buddha. So Geshe makes prostrations and pays his respects. So really, if you ask who is the Lama, yeah, in particular, it's the skillful and the very knowledgeable Buddha, the Buddha Shakyamuni. So ultimately, the Lama, if we understand the Lama to be the Buddha Shakyamuni was the one that taught an unmistaken or the correct path. So we understand that this is mainly the Buddha Shakyamuni, who was from the land of India and was an Indian person himself. So based on the teachings of the Buddha, the great Nalanda scholars based in India, the Nalanda University, these 17 scholars in particular, the 17 scholars, those statues representing those scholars who are outside there. So during the first, second, and third centuries, they wrote multiple commentaries and texts on what the Buddha Shakyamuni described and taught. So based on these texts, then due to their hardship and their effort, then we're able to study and we have an endless amount of content that we're able to reflect upon. Yeah. So it's really due to the scholars' kindness and efforts that we're able to study and reflect about the Buddha's teachings. So whenever Geshe meets with Indian people, he really immediately feels a sense of closeness and recalls the kindness of the fact that the Buddha was born within that country, and recalls the kindness of the Buddha Shakyamuni himself. So Geshe feels a very special affinity, and from the very depths of his heart wishes to show a great respect whenever he meets with Indian people. Because moreover, Geshe feels that all Indian people have a very special blood connection or blood heritage with all the Indian scholars that were arriving from or hailing from the Nalanda University. So really, above all, Geshe feels that he would like to show a special level of respect to all the Indian people. That's all.
adire penangara namju ke ni shutira ngai amjola ya kanju lomba mambu ke yora ta jaga ke dirwa tinani ta hindi ke ta ani lecture ke thola ya pena doji den da warna se droba na ani khunzu gi demba kyor de tendi anganzi ta nye yores ani semnal so mixa wa pe nyembu pi tanda sik de gogo mar ni lecture singyo mar de ya khunzu kyoyandi 고원디 배 샘날 소 믹스어지 용도스 라 용도스 딘지 이차니 지단닝에다 수수 미세 강자라야 조 야갈 키비 쇼 장거레스 강자라 먼저 백균 난den게 아니 피게 딱 공부 쭉 두속 아니 롬니르 칸쭉 두속에 아니 공부르 아니 leban phabala panden dawa thakba ani shiwala atishala sobigi kunzu zesha ju song di zo lomnir che zo di dichigi yoresra the del deni kunzu kandaji song yume chi pigi ani songba zamma se chi rilam da gyunsen da chi yorada ani namchu purt chong yobaji da 아니 개개인 가든진 도서 간절마 틱 학던다 야워무 체기 아니 송주도즈려야 되는 야갈 키비 송도zo 아니 쇼만 대신한 거레스 아니 딘딜레 템비게 아니 나렌데기 키비 온부터zo 아니 오늘 단얘기다 삼기 미케비 남주 풀도 총 여버지 아니 소수 철구연자 다 콘소다 미릭직 버려 삼삼로지 아니 소랄레온디 아니 샘띵니 아니 가와다 쿠바 용도스 라 티용도스 안드발야 지미 먼저 쳐서 사가나야 야가든지 여바나가 람상 판론 라 아니 나머스티 슬라시 라파스탄 나는 비키우도스 라 나는 비키우도스 두치나
So, amongst all the languages that there are in the world, Geshe feels that Hindi, and in particular the Indian language of Sanskrit, is really very sweet and eloquent to listen to. So, for example, when Geshe was visiting Bodh Gaya, and in that vicinity, there were people that were reciting in Sanskrit. Even though Geshe wasn't able to understand the words directly, he really felt a very deep sense of joy and felt that the words that or the sounds that he was hearing were very sweet and eloquent. So really felt a very special feeling when hearing this recitation in Sanskrit. So over the course of our lives that we study and reflect on the Buddha's teachings, they are mainly dependent on the texts that are written by the Nalanda scholars. So in the monasteries and then in the schools, then they study and reflect on these texts that are written by great masters, such as Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, Chandakirti, Shantideva, Atisha, and so on. So even His Holiness the Dalai Lama regularly teaches and explains following the texts that are written by these great masters. So whatever studies and reflection that we undertake, it is really mainly due to these great Nalanda scholars. And in these texts, we look and we read not only what they say, but we follow their very sharp and precise logical debates and arguments. So, and then we can, in the same way, reflect using our own faculties, but we can really see that their intellect is very sharp. And they really have very broad and vast understanding. So when Geshe is able to see and be able to reflect on these types of texts, and also when meeting people from Indian heritage, then he really feels a sense of joy and a sense of respect. So it gets that whenever an Indian person is visiting, that he goes over to them directly and says namaste and interacts with them quickly. So Geshe says that he's very happy and thank you.
ngani dong chudu re chubde singla ya ani ngazo chokbo khashi de nyam ne ko dremba ne ko dron jagal ho chola ya ani phigi ajanta da elora sesaki ta chabu ro ani tele ya nambi gomba yore hindi gomba yore ani pe chak rangshan la ya chak rangshan ma ko ne gomba shansha ki tindi je do asro ani do ra dindi je yo tele chik drawing ba tele drawing kabdula di nyandram la yan drangkan tindi dora jaga drangkan al tan drangkan na dera hotel tindi hotel na dem kadula hotel na lega chingin ki ani full lotion shin tindi do kunzu ka chik namba yin sig dora ani tindi puching je ngin drangkan na les tanga tashi ke ngin drangkan na len drangkan na lo yon se di kunzu lams cha sig do kunzu pe kunzu ngal cha sig dora cha zin ngi kampal gotu tusigda ani kunzu la nyamba jitego san pesate jitego kunzu ta lega che jana mi kyumar wa an pi drangkan la cha chimbu yo mara ta tindi chin dewa dangi kunzu la peja jitena kunzu sawa ni leng bunda ani lama ke peja resa sawa ni pe sheta chugda a kunzu semla ya tindi ki pe ani kaso ta chik sem ting ni ro yagal hocho ki namba sola ya sem ting ni pe ani teba shudo ta ro nganzu da tindi teba chi yong na ani lo mangbula ya ani jondar cheba ina ya sem ting ni pe teba yong ya di ngan samna pe khabu yin sares ta khonzola dindi yoba de khasna ko mereb ni ma gyun ro pe ta chi subi be chagdan jawa chong yobanza ani sem ting ni teba di yong yosara nga dindi samsongs.
So in 2017, Geshe and a few other people went on pilgrimage to India, in particular South India, where there are a system of caves called Ajanta caves. And in this vicinity of these caves, there are different types of temples or gompas, yeah? So there's a Buddhist temple, and there's also Hindu temples, yeah? So then in this area, in a particular cave, they went to visit this self-arising feature within the cave, yeah? So then after meeting with this self-rising feature, then Geshe and the group went to stay at the hotel, yeah? And at the hotel, there was a young Indian boy, yeah? And some of the Indians in that area considered themselves as Buddhist, yeah? So this particular young boy in the hotel, Geshe, of course, was wearing his robes. And then this young boy saw Geshe and straight away offered prostrations to Geshe and placed his head at Geshe's feet. And also wanted to give Geshe a gift, make a money offering to Geshe. So Geshe could clearly see that there was a deep level of faith and respect, and specifically in the South Indian areas. Yeah. So, and you could see that this young boy had, due to the maybe over many lifetimes, and possibly due to a blood connection, that this deep level of faith and respect, this devotion, was very spontaneously arising in this young boy. So if we ourselves need that level of faith, that deep sense of conviction, that even though we may practice for a long time, it is difficult to cultivate this deep level of faith. So Geshe thinks that maybe because there's many lives for this Indian boy, and then also the physical blood connection, it might give rise to this deep-seated level of faith and respect. That's all.
Tinidi tanga tsachi ge ani pyoge lama chikres lama tsungaba ani ta ngata phygyu nandingi phige chög nan ta ani jelama tsungabi gi ta jinju ge thero chigiyores ra ani ngege ta khatu inaya nima takpa nge ani jelama tsungaba gi song chik ta kari imbaina chik ani ndöngu yore ne logu yore ani samdang yores ra ani jamgal namu tsungaba chenbo 드릅 주시 나한테발아야 펩다 드릅 주시 나라 펩네 아니 벼 지단 총사데 벼 샤쇼라야 총네 벼 의라야 갑들이 드럽 주시 나라야 아니 야가르기 남비그추 나넨다기 추줄티 달니 배시 아니 롱압게 죽자 어딘지 지금 참 계기여서리스 아니 콩 아니 벼 의라야 펴니 아니 의기 따지 남체 장사기 hlomyer 강망부 야 로 라마 망부 jel야 때네 아니 쉬우지 장도 쉬 장체네 벼 키비기 손자 마임바 아니 주 야걸 키바 단단 날렌다기 키비 엄부 투수고 아니 숑 장체 데니 콩기 따디강 장샤바드 수다 돔담았는 갸니 아니 탭 더 좁게 요레스 탭 좁게 요레스라 탭 침부지기 좁게 요레스 다디 니 찬상의 신규야 말다 다디 톡려야 아니 장골로 순가바 침비 장자비 탭 좁게 디 나렌다기 케비 ombuds고 송당 케바 자바니니 요마레스로 디자 다디 장발레 때니 아니 믹스기 나렌다기 케비 ombuds고 송샤줄이야 아니 이초야 제당 대바 용야지 아니 하도는 장골로 송가바 침비디 원이 산지기 템바티 산지기 달랍샤티 아니 집에 용수 줘봐 수 독디니 아니 당한서 남바지긴 받는 갈라고 했으나 강사 직로 아니 창계비 람지 림발이야 아니 세우친다 베 리비 람니 직통인디 딩인디 아니 배 간진 종이야 남산지 위치에 다르니 로직 동학습 저거 되느냐 아니 콩따오지 종이어서 말했어. 나라서는야 콩난시 종문도 어디 삼고래서
So Geshe was holding a book up, So Geshe considers the teacher or the author of this book a Tibetan teacher called Lama Tsongkhapa. Yeah, it's very precious in particular because Geshe follows Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah, and he considers himself specifically a follower of this great master Lama Tsongkhapa. Yeah, so every day Geshe reflects on the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa. He recites praises, he reads, and he thinks about what the great master Lama Tsongkhapa has written about. So Lama Tsongkhapa was born in Tibet, specifically in the eastern regions of Tibet around the 14th, 13th, 14th centuries. Yeah. And then in central Tibet during that time, the teachings of the Nalanda scholars was being taught and spreading. So then Lama Tsongkhapa, then arriving in central Tibet, was able to receive many teachings from many great masters, and also studied with many great teachers and masters in various places, following the explanations made by the great Nalanda scholars. Yeah. So over the 600 year period that the teachings were being followed closely, that were given by Lama Tsongkhapa. So not only studying the text written by Tibetan scholars, but also studying very closely the words of the Nalanda scholars and the texts and the books that are composed by the Nalanda scholars. So in particular, Lama Tsongkhapa was able to compose 18 different volumes of texts or books. Geshe doesn't know exactly each, specific individual volume, but he knows that Lama Tsongkhapa's description and explanation in all of those 18 texts are following the advice and the explanations that are outlined by the great Nalanda scholars. And there's really nothing that is going to be contradicting what the Nalanda scholars have written in these texts that Lama Tsongkhapa composed. So there's nothing extra or nothing left out, and nothing contradicting in the Lama Tsongkhapa's 18 volumes. So you can see that Lama Tsongkhapa was able to compose a very clear, a very concise and complete description on that outlines the path all the way up to enlightenment. Yeah. So really, during the 1,000-year period overall that Buddhism has been in Tibet, then Geshe feels that during the whole time that there's really no one other than, no one like Lama Tsongkhapa that has come about since or during that time. So Geshe feels that Lama Tsongkhapa was really unsurpassable in this way.
Terida 당이 메지 간살라 장반자 아니 나랑 소와 가리어스라 온디 제당 추 시행에 빼망부였다 로 안주 추룩 참말로야 추 시행에 여러와서 나 남발이야 남빛 남발이야 추만 아니 람겐 빼망부여레스 임바이나야 강 love you 추디 아니 밀라마 라비아 디 소수기 정말 진신지 냠내 나투고 요랬으나 만치하게 깔카부차고 왔어 라마 숭가바 딘데 말레스 라마 숭가바기 추 가리 송바티 도잘라 가리 송바티 코랑기 냠슬렌친 정말 진신 냠슬렌니 아니 네번이 되와 짱짱치 라 차고르스 베나 추 듀바이나 추 듀바이나 라바숨 세트 라 나마산지 위치도 추 듀온디 라바숨 세트는 듀고레스 수tum 라바 땡인지 라바 셔르 라바 티스um 용수 조버 투스치 술tum 라바 텔야 아니 균 참모점이야 마크베톤 송요레스 소소타유 수tum 있는다 전주심비 수tum 쌍나가 수tum 그러다 아니 계란수 난지 장여번 하고 그때 어딘지 톨이야 균 다시 마셔베톤 코랑그 송치 냠슬렌치 아니 디 이공 가리임바 아니 예와 가리임바 아니 디기치 아니 멘튼조 가리임바 아니 디 송겹 재단 가리임바 빼 쳔마 지진게 코랑이 냠슬렌치네 도잘라만 땡요레스 디난시 땡인지 셔르글라바 아니 디치디기 랑기 냠슬레니 쳔마 지진지 비길이야 아니 콘도 치베토니 마 도잘 땡인디 산지 좀 된디 종요로 마도 셴마 카보로 왔으라 다 도스 라무츠가 비게 남자를 나올이야 지금 시투 바나 공기 송포도 접게텔이야 간라 간성지 아니 소수 중앙에 봐 체투 바나 야차 야탐바 산지 좀 된데 개버 싸우니요 말이스 개버 싸우니요 말이스로 진짜다 샘딩니 쇼지 아니 구지 용거래 로 아니 가주스 장바이네 다 망다서 대샤다 just maybe too much too long.
So Geshe feels that over his lifetime of study and reflection of the Buddha Dharma, he feels that there are many teachers that share the Buddha Dharma and or the teachings of the Buddha. But some of those teachers may not necessarily be able to practice themselves, whatever they're advising their students. They may not necessarily be practicing themselves, So the advice and the teachings that the teacher is giving, it needs to be practical and easy to apply to our daily life. But also the teacher themselves needs to implement that into their own lives and practice. So really, Geshe feels that Lama Tsongkhapa was somebody that not only taught, but taught from his own experience. He put his own advice into his own daily practice. So in particular, Lama Tsongkhapa taught about but practiced the 3 higher trainings, the higher training of ethical discipline, concentration, and wisdom. So he practiced not only practiced it, but practiced without fault, because Lama Tsongkhapa specifically in terms of the ethical training of the higher training of ethical discipline, he was able to know exactly what needed to be abandoned and what needed to be adopted. He knew what was a fault and what wasn't a fault, and was also able to know the methods in order to protect that ethical discipline. So in this way, he was able to practice that higher training of ethical discipline faultlessly. So and also in terms of Lama Tsongkhapa's practice and protecting of his vows, in terms of his Pratimoksha vows, his Bodhisattva vows, and also his tantric vows. For those who are familiar with the Buddha's teachings or Buddha Dharma, then you will be aware of these vows. So since he was able to have a very clear understanding, he was able to practice his own advice. So the Buddha Shakyamuni, he was able to be very skillful and show the means to the students, in order to put into practice. So the Buddha was very skillful in that way. But through Lama Tsongkhapa composing these 18 volumes, then really he himself was very aware of the advice that needed to be implemented. And on that basis, he was able to practice what he was advising. So really, Geshe feels that there is really no difference between the Buddha Shakyamuni and Lama Tsongkhapa.
The things dangi kharsam gores laundi mzi nanglo ya kaddu inna chi nyomna meba kaddu inna chi sem nanglo ya gawa da trowa yongya chi gogdu baina ani lama tsunga bagi ani labja di janya reshas lama tsunga bi son sha ji son de la jang baina kaddu inna ro kaddu te baina ya ani sem nanglo ya trowa chi dang 아니 지 념만 싸워니 님에봐 님마 딱반 계랑 장바이네야 념나 연구 말해서 telaya 로 아니 디 가드이나 쪼와 가드이나 박페부 디 갸차 갸탐바 용투기였어리스로 다디 장야려야 당부테스 깔리 잡고 그러스로 깔리 잡니 디기 부길다 아니 람가다마서는 지 갸샤 갸탐바 레였어리스로 먼저 자지거래 자그에서 별로 망부였다. 자그 남 통부슈 지는 풀투고라. 아니 콘솔이야 잘람이 요랬을라. 잘람. 아니 남칼이야 디온디 아니 코란족이 간점질라 차디 코란족 람가로지. 남칸이 코란족 람가지 니야도. 람가 디니에 세비질라 디니 가주스 타그림부 풀고 촌나야. 킬로미터 동자 망부 풀고라. 아 풀투고 잘람디니에서 디난신기 먼저 추 잔이 비기 잔이 그런 깊이 산삼로지게 레바이나 가드이는 념남해봐 가드이는 샘레야 쪼와당 가와당 박배부티 야채자도 연구였어리스 로
So if we need joy and happiness in our daily lives, if we find that we really need this in our minds, then if we study and learn about Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings, even though we may study every day, we would never get bored, but only we will feel very happy and joyous. So if we study and reflect about what Lama Tsongkhapa is advising and teaching us, we'll be able to feel much more relaxed, very happy, and really, no matter how much we study and reflect, we will never become bored with it. So like, for example, but this, like anything, like study and learning something, it takes effort, yeah? For example, in Tibet, there are many vultures, yeah? And these vultures, they fly very high into the sky, but that takes effort because they need to find a path or a way to get very high up in the sky. And then once they've found this particular path or way, then without much effort, they're able to fly for many thousands of kilometers. Yeah, they're able to travel a very long distance. So you can see that with the effort, if we study and learn what Lama Tsongkhapa is advising, we'll be able to generate a very natural sense of joy, happiness. Our mind will become very relaxed and we would never be bored. Yeah. So Geshe feels convinced that this would happen. That's right.
들이 쉬야 조로데 될 태워지 요레스로 아니 라마 중갑에 돌아야 태워지 요반사 아니 대단제 통네다 쉬고요레스 되니 가다 간징 얘기다 메시지 거다 메시지 나와야 장바를 왔어 아니 당보 장을 가들어야 깔레페 자빈스 라 아니 사연통야 야부여 말에 대사 진입이 Yabuya Mardina, the Tutala, sound Chemadan, Jan, Giggins, Alandro, Trobunyam, the future, Jan, the Tanda Pe, Kaduina, Pilayaro, Kadu, Samlotanaya, Rikpa Savajita, Junsen Savajita, a Diko Kaduina Yonyash, Pig, Junsenley and Tamebadoch. Katsus Samlotana, Samdan Yedich. Any Karswataji, Riglam Mandravach, Niete, Petting Samdan, Kadin Yamnamevach, the Gacha Yadam Yunguris. Dinza Pena Jawarmchidao, Jawarmchitao, the Annie Chu Jani, Peshi Lot the Dunchi last, Chung only things about Jani, and Lot Dunjus as drug dasra. In a Tandaina, Shogi Chuzu Sumbalia Shanchini, any Gom Gab, Chabisi, any Telaya Shuji Trona Yunguyores. Kansan Diko, and Chipa Chikan in by na, any Roting Savarda, any Junsen Mang sometime mena, a Chipa Chikan, any Karsa, the Ingo the Ligmaros, ra.
So today was mainly Geshe is speaking about Lama Tsongkhapa in terms of a question that is received about the activities of Lama Tsongkhapa. So, but in general, Geshe from a very early age and during the course of his life, he studied and undertaken a lot of difficulties in terms of, in the beginning, staying at the monastery, there were very poor conditions. There was very lacking in food and facilities, and regularly they had to go to the teacher's room and go to debate and so forth. So, but during this process, Geshe was able to think about and receive new flavors of logic, new perspectives. And really, it became a source that didn't have any limit of being able to reflect and contemplate about the Buddha's teachings. Yeah. So based on these new perspectives and different pathways of logic, then Geshe was able to develop his understanding deeper and deeper and in more profound ways. So, for example, as long as the Dalai Lama, for more than 70 years, His Holiness has been studying and reflecting about the Buddha Dharma. Yeah? And even to this day, he gets up, wakes up at 3 a.m., he does his meditation, prostrations, and other practices, and he still undertakes a lot of effort, yeah, and reflection about the Buddha's teachings. So whereas if we just keep our understanding in the same manner, if we don't take it to deeper levels of reflection, then really it's very difficult for our interests to be cultivated and come about. So, the question that Geshe is referring to, I put it in the chat, and I've summarized it, is received by email. Lama Tsongkhapa has received and has given many great teachings, developed great realizations, etc. However, we do not hear about beneficial activities other than giving teachings to others. Could Geshe please describe any such activities? That's the question. So Lama Tsongkhapa any Gekin Lama Temple le any Sunche in Lobjong Nambo Chale Nang any de Jala and in Lamason Kappa Ye any Dusha Lobjo Mambola and in Sunche Mambo Sumirawa any the champagne Chale Yorwa any Sunche Nang le Sunche nang le champagne, any champagne ki chale, kare kare nambare.
당한주 samlo namgi samlo nalala ya chik ane penda ne slawandi ro and mas thiotang sore who's
Verbo
dinala yeah okay omoinsa
okay, let's
manju sam nalala ya penda ne seati 수수 가을 찌기 여면 찍다고 도스라 먼저 미망 체지기 아니 펜바스 라운디 센든 한기 자와질이야 캡상 소조질이야 시대바이나 디아 좀는디기 랍자데 뜸바이나 디치 아니 풍경 림부기 상로 메비 깨져질이야 지요레스 로 펜슬라운디 페 아니 깨와 균이 펜도 여버질이야 펜바지요레스 네 슬라운디기 아니 대린 산이기 칼라사야다 둘로 그냥기 개발점 마인바 깨와 균이 아니 펜도 여버질이야 펜바세 쓰고도 하스러
ne suibe
라
ne pas suibe.
네버디야 깨와래 네버 찍버라
Let's okay. So usually we consider benefits, or helping others in terms of benefiting or harming, So to begin with, we need to consider how or what is beneficial or what is harmful. Because usually we consider something that is beneficial by if we receive a profit or a gain from something, So following the Buddha's advice, it's not necessarily something that receives like a physical profit or gain, But we can understand beneficial or being of benefit as something that is useful and helpful from life to life over multiple lifetimes. And in the same way, something that is harmful or unbeneficial, so it's something not necessarily relating to this life in terms of clothing, fame, gain, and so on, but something that is harmful or unbeneficial from life to life over many lifetimes. That's all.
Teni ya di nani kyang ani nganzula ya ludan semni yawanza ani lula pembigi chawachidan semla pembigi chawani yungores di yotaji yoros ra tanganzu ludi tseji glures ra tse jewaina ta gewang hashira namba pigi nambe shon na shinjine ani samlon rothingijina ani nganzu semdi 깨와니 균 로고요레스 루디 치직 잠레마도 치 아니 루디 샤는 로고야지 루디 돌고야지 차고레스 진짜 룰라 펜비기 자와디 첸 디sam라야 펜바레마도 치치말라 펜비기 아니 자와지 차고요 말이스 셈라 펜비기 자와디 깨와니 균 아니 로투야기 펜도지 디차고레스
So among that, we've got the body and mind activities. So what is beneficial activities for the body and mind. So really, if we consider well, the body is, we can do beneficial activities for our body, but this body is for this life alone. Yeah. Whereas the mind, we need to engage in beneficial activities for the mind that continues from life to life. Yeah. So as we know, we need to leave this body. We need to be separated from this body. The body is related only to this life. Whereas those beneficial activities of relating to the mind is something that need to be considered in terms of life to life. That's it.
Yeah. Teni dinza ta lama tsonga bagi chu songya zangma se kang songba de be yitol ya se bu shuji tichin ra yitol ya se bu shuji tichin ani lo tongta chingba ina ya ani pento yo de bi chawlab chen di sha yores ra ta di semla pembi gi chawlab chen ze yores 디치 애니 미리기 예와 메바 포모기 예와 메바 라 아니 지 간지 미 남주 영행기 미 순자지기 아니 팬도 렘바이나 렌투 이야기 아니 자와디 이토라 샤요레스 이토라 샤요레스 아니 탭접기 샤요레스 라
So Grandmaster Lama Tsongkhapa not only gave great teachings, yeah, but it is very clearly stated in the texts, in the books that have been composed. There is great advice and teachings that Lama Tsongkhapa gave, and this advice is still applicable even 1,000 years later. Yeah, regardless of the culture or the country that one is born from, or whether regardless one is male or female, or the level of intellectual faculty. It is very clearly stated, this great advice and teachings in these 18 volumes that Lama Tsongkhapa has written. That's
Terda ro suzulaya Lama Tsongkhapa nanshabi pendo dira kewa ni kewa gyunchini ta gona len chokchok roji ra ta de le manen de suzula rale dasra suzu pi lenga mandruna ani kari yobayna ya jigden di tolaya kari yobayna ya suzula peng marwas ra bena chokse ganla ya kala sön sa chokchok chen sha yobanda susu sagan rogo rasra susu saga mandruna kala kazus yagbu yobayna di suzula peng marwas di nan shinji Lama Tsongkhapa be 아니 이토라베 렌초초 chen 로 아니 개와 균신 아니 팬도 요디비기 아니 자와디 샤요레스
So the advice and teachings that Lama Tsongkhapa has written, these advice and teachings are beneficial for us from life to life, yeah, over many lifetimes. And actually, this advice is very easily taken up. But the fact is that we have to put the effort in to take that up. So whether we take it up or not is really dependent and is in your own hand. Yeah. So it's like when we have a lot of delicious food on the table. It's on the table, but it's up to you and your effort to eat that, take it up and eat it. Yeah. So regardless of how good or how much food you have there in front of you, it's really up to you to take it. It's ready for the taking, but you need to take it up. Yeah. So likewise, whatever advice and beneficial teaching that Lama Tsongkhapa has given, it's very easily accessible and it's ready for you to take up there. That's it.
Di nangla ya dang wani ibe masiba tene tangan daw jimba na shu ya gu ji do sra be ya gu songsha songzan ngone thane ge 균sen yo ba rigba yo ba musunda ji ti nyamslen ba ina ya pendo yo de ba dinji yo res ra laman sunga be song dinji yo res changchang changchang ji ra 아니 지금 산기기 라브샤 찬상원지 비 주딘 라 주딘 요레스
So Geshe feels that whenever he is reading and reflecting on what Lama Tsongkhapa has written, he thinks, oh, that is really, really great. It's very reasonable. It's very logical. And really, it's beneficial to all beings, any type of being. So everything that the Lama Tsongkhapa has written and what is composed on is really a concise form of what the Buddha Shakyamuni has taught. That's all.
can't make it to you know just
Yeah. So if anybody has any specific questions, please feel free to ask now.
아니 어디다 저니 다치 조디 라마 쭝가바기 셈라 펜비 라 아니 좀 된디기 추줄디 지단이 좀 된디기 추줄디 셈라 펜비기 랍샤시레 노스 더 셈라 펜스 라운디 셈 박페부 아니 셈 시디 아니 셈디 커냠부 아니 지 커냠바 잠마제 아니 갸침부 삼로당 퉁이지 라 랍샤 딘디지견도 아스라 산지 랍샤 딘디지견 요레스다
Tsongkhapa 네 랍시티 큐.
레 숭가바리
랍.
산지 좀 된데리
네.
이거는
That's it. So mainly Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings, and of course the Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings are really focused on what is beneficial for one's mind. So what is beneficial in terms of cultivating a more relaxed, peaceful, calm, and open mind. But not only an open mind, but a very broad and vast, expansive mind. So this is really the main purpose of the being beneficial for our minds. So this is whatever advice that Lama Tsongkhapa and in turn the Buddha Shakyamuni also, of course, spoke in terms of benefiting our mental peace and happiness. That's it.
Yeah.
There's a question.
I think I have very narrow understanding of compassion. We usually think saving animals, helping people, but compassion is also about preparing, helping people for next life, introducing them to Dharma or So there's compassion for people for just this life and compassion to help people in future lives, to help other people.
Is that correct? Is that your question?
Yes, I'm just coming to that. So what Geshe is
Understanding.
saying is that when we think of Shenre Zeke and saving animals and Tara saving animals and saving people, but saving their life is just helping them, compassion for them for this life. But Tsongkhapa, his compassion is helping us for future lives as well as just this life.
So Geshe,
Mhm.
Moigi Ninjegi Kula any Samsul this Ku Chung Chung Kuyambo Maimba Ku Chung Chung Kuya Chung Chung Yegiresa Penashajna Ninjela any Tunjola Pempa Champagne lega any ninjegi ma karesna any champagne lega se chima gi chedo any ninje any ha kogoresa penashajna what's chinrezik Tara lots of pa what's console champagne lega ninja wangi champagne lega tunjola so kyopa ene yine say digi pempa yine chesun kapagi say chimagi champagne chale yang kelchimpures di denda di repes tiwatire.
Ninji Slawandi, Dunghar the Tanduki, the Dumbam Sewa said, the digital, the Ninjis Lagoras, Ra, Ninji Slawandi,
Dumba
Dunghar the Tanduki, Dumbam Sewa, the Sevalan degree, Dumbalan degree, and Dunghar the Tana Jimaron Yambi, Logilaya, Ninjis Lagores.
So, what is compassion? So, compassion is the wish or intention of wanting to free others or separate others from suffering.
Things are the Dunghar Slawandi, Sin dig Dungar Dian Dungare, Kiawachimagi Dungar Dia Dungares. Sin Didan Chimagi, Eva maybe Dungar Tamchedan, and Tower Chanduk Lore Mato, and Deliat said the Chimagi Kiawachesa Yomares.
So, suffering of this life, suffering of next or future lives, it's really coming back to this intention that wishes to separate those beings from suffering. So, regardless of the suffering being in this life or in future lives, there's no need to make distinction on the wish that her intends to separate beings from suffering in this or future lives. That's
Then any Rangi Dungar down, Shangi Dungar. Samalo Dungare Mado, Rangi Dungar Dunga in Bajedan, Shangi Dunga Dunga Maimba, Tindi Yameba, Ranshin Samag Dunga Dunga, Ranshin Samag Dunga the Tanduki Sambajilaya, Ra Jargo Grace, Ninjis Laundi.
also, when we think of suffering, it's in terms of our own suffering and the suffering of others. But ultimately, the suffering is still suffering regardless if it's your own suffering or others' suffering. It's still the same wish or intention to be separated from it. Yeah. So this is where we apply compassion, regardless if it's your own or others.
Tadini any ninji nyamne chedan song di sanji ra san chomden di ta ninji nyamne chedan song di ta chambu shuji ton ra tan jamgal ma song ka basham busan da sanji chomden ta chibuji ya ta chambu shuji ra sosul la dungal jona mende ba nan shi shin pigi so cham bunsi chunje ni dungal chona deba meba di chikpares tinza 아니 랑기 대화지기 체도 랑기 내가고 대화였는데 아니 깨워침이 대화였나 딘지 대화지기 체도 계란기 신라야 동할 때바이나 동할 서바이나 자와님의 장부 말이스 계란 동안다 자고 와나신 신 동안다 자고 그래스 동안 되고요 말이스 어 딘지 로 장수 그런 바디 닌지 냠는 지수겠다 로 내가 타두데 디니시기도 왔어 디 냠는 디기 아니 친 디기 아니 디기려야 핑기요리 아니 란데 셴 참말이야 저 네버 마치비기 삼로디 디니기 두고레스 아니 깨워 치만 넘수 있는 란데 셴 참말로야 즉 세워 마치비기 람갈란 로투게디 냠는 디 토네 용고요레스 디세부 쇼지 저 디세부 쇼지 송요레스
So the practice of compassion or implementing compassion, the Buddha was very direct and very clear and honest about what that involves. So also Lama Tsongkhapa was very clear and direct about the practice and implementing compassion. So for yourself, and all the way down to the smallest insects, in the same way that you do not want to experience suffering, these insects and all the beings in between do not want to experience suffering. Yeah? But for the sake of your temporary or short-term happiness for this life or for future lives, if you engage in giving harm and suffering to others, this is never okay. This is not an honest or a direct way of living. Yeah. So because we do have this wish, the wish that others, oneself, and others be freed from suffering, since we do not want to cause harm based on our understanding of compassion, then by building and cultivating this level of compassion and not bringing harm and suffering to others, then this could be a benefit to this life and future lives. So we travel or traverse on this path of compassion for the benefit of yourself and for others. So the Buddha Shakyamuni spoke very clearly and directly about this. That's
그러다 란다 셴참을로라 란다 셴참을 대어대버 동문대버 찌규리임바디 먼저 삼로 단으로 제바이나 통투게 똑투게 자고로 왔어. 디자 디실라샤니다 랑기 디기기 쳇도 셴라 네버 땅바이나 띵가 장부 마려와 삼비기 로티 잠 끼에여버지 삼로 땅이 소소래야 삼로 디 코르투게 여버지 자고레스 나랑기 디기기 쳇도 이 셴라 경 세워 쳇바이나 띵가 장부 마려와 삼비기 로디 끼에투게디 랍샤 드존나라 라고레스로 딘자 카와 드로다 있나야 카와 데나 있나야 수치라 만내바지 그러나 무슨 존재는 내가 마치와지. 아니 탑람디 아니 산기기 랍자나로야 세우 슈직 송요레스라. 다디 소수 디돌 삼로탄 디냠네 마치나 단지 쉬바난신 아니 소소레 팽야 카브로스라. 또 소수 디장 디삼로탄 디냠네 제바나 갸차 갸탐바. 아니 nganzu ta chomden de na shinki ra jigden di toki ani mi thambu tangyang khong tawji nganzu chaya yores.
So in the same way that you want happiness and not want to experience suffering, we can see if we reflect well that we cannot differentiate oneself or others in this way or this wish. Yeah? So we can take this as our starting point or our foundation, thinking that if in order to gain my own happiness or my own gain or benefit, that I actually cause harm and I'm suffering to others, then this is not a very honest method or an honest way of living our lives. Yeah? So based on the advice that the Buddha Shakyamuni has given, that regardless of where we're going or staying or whatever activity that we are doing, if we do not harm or cause any suffering, even to a small insect, then this would be very beneficial for us. The Buddha spoke very clearly and advised very clearly about this. So we can't distinguish between self and others, yeah, in terms of bringing about suffering and harm to others, yeah. So really we can see that this general way of abiding in the world, it needs to follow a very honest path, a very direct path. And this is what the Buddha advised us, and it's really up to us to put that into practice. That's enough.
Dira dini chikshu chosra. Anzu mangbo jilya ani penata domba sej sonyor. Dombe nanglalya zo migichibu tambo delya sokche rungmares. Ani sokche rungmares. Sokche na nyeba yores. Nyeba khari yores laundi kerang ani ge tunga nyongo gore kerang ngansong la kigre se tindi tindi yores. Chitang tagaran res. Inaya ani jeromuchi sevuji la kharsu yores ladi. Sokche rungmares. Sokche di kerangi ani changbu mares. Shenla ya tsewa res. Kerangla ya tsewa chena mendeba nanshin. Shenla tsewa cheba na mendeba chikbar was. Dinza kerang sokche na changbu chagamundu sayadi. Sevu shujin song yores.
So from one perspective, for example, our vows or our restraints, specifically the restraining from the 10 non-virtues. The first of the 10 non-virtues is to not engage in taking others' life, not engage in killing. So yes, if you do engage in taking the life of another, if you engage in killing, the faults are that you yourself will experience suffering and you'll go to the lower realms and hell realms and so forth. But Lama Tsongkhapa, he said it is not suitable to kill or take the life of others because it is not an honest way of conducting oneself, because in order to gain your own happiness or own benefit, if you engage in harming others, then in the same way that you don't want to experience suffering and harm, the other person also do not wish to experience that. So if we take the life of others in order for our own gain or benefit, this is really not an honest way or an upfront way of living or conducting our lives. So Lamas and Kappa spoke very clearly about this.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing today your lovely knowledge. If we acknowledge that in this life, we have a finite number of heartbeats and time, and that we simultaneously live in the experience of suffering and happiness, we have both. How do we absorb and learn the 18 volumes of Lama Tsongkhapa's teaching, advice, and guidance so that we can exist in a better state of peace and bliss in the world that we're currently living in this lifetime, knowing that we only have a short amount of time to be able to do that before then moving on to the next lifetime. I mean, 18,000 volumes or 18 volumes is probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of words and little pieces of knowledge and advice that it takes time to absorb and to live into.
Yeah, sure. I'll just summarize your question. So, due to our limited time in this world, and according to our current global situations, how do we absorb the advice that is consisting in these 18 volumes of texts to cultivate the peace and happiness while experiencing suffering and happiness? That's in summary. Okay, so I'll ask that to Geshe. So Geshe, 뭐이기 Lama Tsongkhapa boti jobgegi nane labcha kalab ding sapo any nyamlen ni mambo ye zang any ngatsu se digi ringla any ngatsu tutsu di rimbo yo mares ra tutsu lobchan chaya lega chayaki tutsu rimbo yo mare any labcha di samalo ngatsu semla shatsur kare kare res.
Sem nana shayla jango do asra. Jango the jango is the jaya tuzu mundu slav devana. And tuzu the mundu sanam mundu said is ra. Imbainaya tuzu tension ra. Tuzu teni Suzuki and tuzu kazu yoba ten jan shabaina. Yacha gatam but tell Babigi, ani Kepsanji Rayung Goras, the Dico Jidan Lobjong Rodan Ros, Lagdon the Nesambana, and a Lomban Divag Midrojin, the Chinjung Kone, Longa Truni, Labdella Tanchi, Lobjong Chitang Lobjong said Levainza, and a Lomsen Shambaji Kari like Jamba in a Lamsan to Dom Gap together. The young Saris, Tinza. Tuzu tengo etero. Tuzu tenya dengita ane lo jema tengi dawa jema tengi dunda jema tengi sama mahimba. Teri rang tuzu tenchine tembo chine. Ane jamba ina. Tichugi ane yasi jata ma kenan pendo yungures. Semle yungures ro. Tima tengi dindri semle shagores dodoji lave khaburada.
So, in brief, the best way to incorporate the advices of Lama Tsongkhapa within one's own mind is to study. Yeah. So if one is saying, oh no, I don't have any time to study, then no, you're not gonna be able to have time. But if we make the time to study what the Lama Tsongkhapa has written, then however much time that we're able to dedicate towards study, then that much you'll be able to gain and derive benefit from. Yeah. So Geshe himself, or in general, from a very young age, from the age of 5 and so forth, engaged in various types of study and education. So, and bringing during that time, you sort of bring all of that together, yeah, and consolidate that in your own mind, yeah. But this is really due to making the time, yeah. So not thinking, oh, I'll make the time next year or next month or next week or so forth, but really trying to find the time and to dedicate to study, yeah, then that much will be beneficial for your own mind, yeah. So otherwise, it's very difficult to say.
Thank you.
Final Lamin dedication. From my 2 types of merits vasa space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a grand land of time, may I become chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all life's Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted boundless peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by even this graded path to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Thank you.
Hello. So for the future weeks, if someone wants to ask a question directly, like if you think about something during the week, you can send it to that email and Jen will talk to Geshe before the Friday teachings and we'll have a teaching about that. So you're welcome to ask and ask. Thank you. Bye, Jen. Thank you.